Cecil County work session meeting of January 29th of 2013. Before the council, we have approval of the minutes for the county council work session meeting of January 22nd of 2013. I have a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes, approving the motion to approve the meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved by unanimous vote. We also have the meeting minutes from the county council closed session meeting of January 22nd, 2013. What's the pleasure of the council?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the council closed session meeting minutes of January 22nd of 2013. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved by unanimous vote. Council closed session meeting minutes. Second on our agenda is a presentation by Lee Doherty, and she's not here yet. All right, then we'll go to the third item is a discussion about redistricting. And this was brought up by Councilwoman Bowlesby, her participation on the charter board. She has some knowledge of the redistricting that she would like to bring to our attention.
Thank you, President Hodge. Under section 214 of the charter, the council's charged with appointing by resolution a redistricting commission no later than April 1st, 2013. Under section 712 of the first redistricting commission is outlined very carefully. We couldn't do it in 2012 because we weren't really an active charter government at that time. That's why it was moved to 2013. The procedure is as follows. The central committee of each political party nominates 5 persons to serve on the commission. Each such list shall include 1 person who resides in each residency district. The council appoints all nominees as members of the commission. In other words, we don't have discussion on the names submitted. The council can appoint 1 member to the commission to ensure the total membership of the commission equals an odd number. The council gets an opportunity to appoint the chair of the commission from among the commission members. No person can be on the commission who holds elective office. If redistricting is to take effect in 2014, not 16, 2014, then by November 15th, 2013, the commission has to present to the council a plan of redistricting residency districts together with a report explaining it. Within 30 days of receiving the plan of the commission, the council shall hold a public hearing on the plan. If within 90 days after submission of the plan, no other legislation reestablishing the boundaries of the residency districts has been enacted, the plan as submitted becomes law. Any residency district established in accordance with this section shall be compact, contiguous, substantially equal in population, and have common interests as a result of geography, occupation, history, or existing political boundaries. Any ordinance establishing residency districts is exempt from referendum. So I would move that we place a resolution on the agenda to establish a redistricting commission, and that letters be sent as soon as possible to the Republican and Democratic Central Committees outlining the requirements to submit 5 names from each committee.
Does that need legislation to make that motion? Move that forward?
I'm Does it need legislation?
Yeah, do we need to make a resolution?
Yes, it's required under the charter that you do it by resolution.
And points that you just brought out to us, all pulled from the charter itself.
Yes.
Is it the consensus of the council to move forward with the establishment of the redistricting commission?
So the procedure is specifically outlined in the charter?
Yes,
This
it
is
is.
exactly-
Yeah, it's outlined in section 214.
Yeah. Well, we have until April 1st.
No, we don't. The commission needs to be active April
Right.
1st.
Okay, well, we do have a week or two.
Oh, we definitely have a week
Yeah,
or two.
I'd like that time to just go over the charter and, I did download this from, the computer yesterday. Just, would like another week. if that's
Okay, I did take it out verbatim out of the charter, the steps. But I just think it's really important that we alert the central committees that they should be looking for 5 people, one from each residency district, because they're not gonna be able to do that overnight.
When was the last time that,
Redistricting was
Yes.
done, their census, they're done with census,
Are
the
we-
year after the census. But we changed it in the charter because we didn't have a county executive, the census was done in 2010, so this really should have been done in 2011. And so we wrote in section 712, which was first redistricting committee.
Do you anticipate that the lines are gonna be drastically different?
I have no idea. None whatsoever. I would think that, somebody like David Black would be, and who's working with him in the election board, that this commission should be able to come up with a plan. To me, it would be monumental, because I have no idea who lives where.
I would anticipate that District 5 and 3 could be a little bit smaller because of the growth in Elton and Northeast. And that District 1 and 3 would probably be larger because of the lack of growth. But that's just a guess. I would hope that the boundaries would be similar, except for minor adjustments for population growth.
Well, nobody likes change, so hopefully the boundaries will remain as close to how they exist now, but we can't control where the population moved, and this is dependent upon population. That's all it's dependent on.
Many citizens probably couldn't even tell you which district they live in today, let alone, changing their district lines, which would potentially require them to visit different polling locations, would even create a lot of confusion. So I think it's in the best interest of the county citizens to maintain the existing districts as best it can be done.
And this redistricting really won't have such a big effect because we are voted county
Wide,
wide.
yeah, very voted county. One of the effects it will have is it could possibly change the voting place of some of the citizens. I think it's really important to let the central committees know that the names that they submit are the names that will be on the committee. We have no opportunity to change anything.
Except,
We get to appoint one person.
yeah, the chair.
And we get to appoint another person to make it an odd number.
So
the
council,
chair is not the odd number?
No, the chair is not the odd number.
Councilwoman Bruno, how much time do you need to?
No, just 1 minute.
1 week. We have a resolution introduced on our February 5th meeting.
I did that before.
Okay, so you'd like to have further discussion on this matter at our next work session in 1 week.
I want to remind the chair that I will not be here for the next 2 work sessions and 1 evening meeting of the council. But I'm available by phone if the council so chooses me to call in.
The evening meeting that would be February 5th.
That's right.
Okay. Who would like to put together a rough draft of a resolution to establish this commission?
I believe that was the, one of the jobs of the council, attorney. We were anticipating.
And the manager, do you believe we'll have one by then?
I doubt it, from what I've learned.
I think that even if we have the council attorney and council board manager draft one, it would be nice to give them something for their, starting point.
I agree.
Joyce, do you want to put something together?
Between now and Saturday, I'll be happy to.
Maybe you can work with Vicki to just put a draft together for discussion first.
Sure, be happy to.
Just to get the ball started.
We'll dig out some old resolutions and just figure it out.
Is there any other questions or discussion on this matter?
No.
Okay. We'll move on. Is Lee Dockery here yet?
No.
Is some- Okay, the next item on our agenda is a presentation by the County Executive's Office regarding preliminary budget information and development. So I'll turn it over to Al Wine, the Director of Administration, to present to the council what they're doing about the budget.
Good morning, Mr. President, council members. As the council recalls, historically, the Board of County Commissioners held a preliminary meeting gaining citizen input on the upcoming budget. The county executive has advertised for a meeting which will be held tomorrow evening to obtain the same results, to get input from the citizenry on their FY 2014 capital and operating budgets. This morning, Craig and Winston are going to provide you an overview of what we intend to present tomorrow night. The meeting starts at 7 o'clock. It'll be here, and Craig will be providing the same presentation tomorrow evening, and of course the council is welcome to attend, obviously, as well as the public. Craig.
Thank you, Mr. Moore, Mr. President, members of the board, members of the public, welcome. Just a brief run through of what's intended for tomorrow evening's town hall meeting concept for citizen input. It will look somewhat similar to other presentations I'm sure you're familiar with. The reason for the meeting, provide a forum for the exchange of meaningful information between the public and the county executive in the early stages of the budget development process, and also for us to provide our preliminary budget information to the public and receive important feedback regarding the issues as they face the citizens of the county. Assuming everyone is largely aware that effective December 3, we formally converted to a charter form of government. Reiterate that the county executive continues the town hall meeting concept as previously established by the boards of county commissioners. Pursuant to section 504 of the charter, it indicates that not later than March 1st of each year, the executive shall prepare and submit a proposed budget to the council. That budget must include a budget message, which shall explain the proposed expense, revenue, and capital budgets in terms of the finances and the work to be done, as well as outline proposed financial policies and describe important features of the budget. Just clearly articulates what the plan is. That comes right from the charter. A little bit about the national and Maryland's economy. Safe to say that the national economy continues to recover from the Great Recession, as it's been deemed, although it certainly remains below peak set approximately 5 years ago. Maryland unemployment reached 99% of the prior employment peak in October of 2012. That peak employment level over this last 5 years was set in July of 2008. So we're getting close to that level at this point, just trying to recover some of the job losses back over 5 years. Employment growth in Maryland is expected to slow to less than 1% in 2013, with potential to increase to 2% by 2015, so those are very modest gains in employment growth. We seem to have avoided the fiscal cliff that was occurring all throughout the holidays, although the effects of sequestration still remain. To most people, what that really amounts to is there's expiring tax provisions, such as lower income, capital gains, and dividend rates, and the elimination of the cap on itemized deductions that disproportionately affects higher wage earners. What that really means to county governments and governments that utilize income taxes as a proportion of their budget is that there's not going to get as much as maybe we had in the past. It's going to be either essentially people will be taking advantage of anything that they can to avoid being taxed. So some of that won't flow back to us. It's just a logical progression that we expected. The structural deficit in the governor's budget, this is their terminology, is nearly resolved under their governor's budget plan for 2014. That's down to $155 million. That may have reached levels as much as $2 billion over the past several years. The governor's budget does not contain any new tax increases or significant spending reductions. For the county government, they've restored local police age funding to historic formula levels. That should add about $200,000 to our budget versus 2013. That revenue stream was probably in the neighborhood of $400,000. It's been flat funded for a couple of years, so we're looking at an increase there. The state had shifted the costs for the assessment functions back to the counties, dating back at least 2 years. That will be reduced to a 50% responsibility level here at the county from 90%. That'll reduce some costs to us by about $300,000. Our level of responsibility has been about $700,000 for the past 2 years. Aid to Cecil County Public Schools appears to be declining by about $1.1 million coming from the state coffers. That while a wealth component plays a part in that, continued decline in enrollment causes that to occur from the state's perspective. This will be the second year of the pension shift from the state. Our piece of the pie is $3.1 million for fiscal 14. It escalates to $4 million and $4.6 million in the next 2 out years. Our current level of responsibility is at around $2.5 million in nice round numbers, so we'll be seeing an increase in our responsibility by about $600,000 for fiscal 14. The governor's budget does propose to continue funding for Cecil College's engineering and math facility. Those would be the highlights of the governor's budget as it relates to Cecil County. Continuing issues facing as it relates to revenue, we're seeing a continued decline in our assessment values, albeit not as rapid as in years past, declining at a declining level. We're going to be down 3.2% for the most recent cycle, and that's on net real property. Job creation, again, I alluded to it a bit based on peak employment. Our unemployment rate has improved for an average of 8.9% for calendar year 11 to 8.4% for calendar year 12. That represents an average job gain of about 255 when it's all said and done. But we certainly have realized a material decline, almost 40% in revenue to be received from gaming at Island Casino Carousel since 2012. That facility is currently undergoing some machine reductions at the site from 1,500 to 1,000. That's was actually something they were going to phase in anyway, and they're also obviously picking up introducing table game on site. It's unclear as to exactly how that could alter our our eyes open about ongoing environmental concerns and how it could affect our budgets this year and in future years, which are the financial impacts of Senate Bill 236, watershed implementation impacts resulting from Plan Maryland and other state intrusion. This next item regarding our assessments, it does show that Area 1, labeled in red, was recently assessed for January 1st of 2013, the area south of Elkton. The next area to be reassessed will be the gold area, which runs across the top, the northern section of the county. That will be assessed in January 2014. The area in red has already received an assessment 3 years ago that started to reflect the downturn in the economy. I would expect that assessments that were received there show at least a modest decline, but I do believe we're probably at the bottom of the trough. Having said that, I indicated a 3.22% decline in real property assessments for fiscal 14. For fiscal 15, at present, that looks to be a decline of about 1.13%. The decline is slowing. I would look at that as at least a harbinger for optimism or a reason for partial, I guess you could call it modest enthusiasm. Budget directives for 2014 that we sent out to the departments. I mean, it's important for us to know that this is the first budget process that follows the formal transition to the charter. We are in a very compressed budget process. It's the executive's responsibility to provide a budget to the council on or before, actually says no later than March 1. We're obviously working on that now. We're intending to set a positive tone for the county's future, proposing to embrace change in a constructive way. We're encouraging departments to find operating efficiencies, which could include cost containment, reclassification of positions and job duties, anything that will derive in cost containment items. We requested that departments to submit their operating expense budgets at minimum levels to operate the department. Their responsibilities are to provide them to our attention as soon as possible prior to February 1. Admittedly, some of our component units, the college, the library, and our public schools have boards that they need to get those processed through. The public schools did theirs formally last evening. The salary schedule is effective from July 1, 2012. Will be utilized as the basis for budgeting our fiscal 14 salaries. This budget is proposing to use a 1.5% cost of living allocation to build into the process. I believe the current CPI is probably around 1.8 for frame of reference. No additional funds will be budgeted for step increases. These will not be entertained for the fiscal 14 budget. That's something that we'll certainly be looking at down the road. With regards to Cecil County Public Schools, over the course of the last 5 years, we've eliminated 166 positions, almost 7.6% of the workforce. That causes a 2014 budget impact of around $12 million. Continued review and formal health care changes have resulted in a 3-year savings of about $7.5 million, although admittedly some of those were spousal waivers and they sent them over to the county's books. That's kind of the nature of the beast. They've reduced discretionary spending by over 37% for the last 5 years, resulting in budgetary savings of about $6.6 million. Their budgeted expense projection for 2014, the county portion is expected to be around $70.4 million. That's $3.3 million more than 2013. That figure does not include their pension obligation, which we indicated previously is $3.1 million. The capital improvement program currently includes 3 systemic renovation projects at Northeast High, Bone Manor Middle School and High School lighting retrofits, the Rising Sun High roof replacement, and complete the Perryville Elementary renovation planning effort prior to bidding for the construction project. With regards to maintenance of effort, this program the law created back in 1984. It was intended to ensure predictability and stability of the funding for local boards of ed. It has received a lot of scrutiny at the legislature for the last several years. This year will be no exception. It requires that we appropriate local funds in an amount not less than the per pupil amount provided in the previous year, adjusted for the enrollment. For 2014, that figure will be $66.14 million. We actually funded $67.15 million back in 2013 as a frame of reference. That reflects the full-time equivalent student decline of 229 for fiscal 14 down to 15,007 full-time equivalent students. What the maintenance of effort does not currently capture are any of the costs or students associated with the preschool program. Just doesn't pick that up. That all falls to the county's coffers. With regards to Cecil College, they're not expected to increase their tuition, which is currently at $95 per credit hour. Their budget is to assume a 6% increase in state funding. That's what it ultimately amounts to, which we're looking at from our perspective as a positive. That's benefiting largely from the full-time equivalent increases at the Cecil College. They picked up the benefit of having increased enrollment there. It works into their funding formula, gets some additional state funding. By default, that tends to reduce potential obligations for county funding. It can. In this case, it appears that it has. The college folks are not complete with their budget process. Been in fairly close contact with them. This is a nice round number. They're estimating that their county request will be around $8 million, which is very similar to what their fiscal 13 allocation looks like. That excludes their small capital request. They're still scrubbing their small capital request. We'll have that very shortly. As I mentioned before, our CIP program includes the continuation of the engineering and math facility, continued tech infrastructure improvements at the site, as well as some HVAC and heating system replacements in a variety of locations at the site to generate operating efficiencies. Going forward, it's our intent to develop a very clear and concise budget message which stresses a balanced approach to governing, and that we will, in fact, as we believe that we always have, adhering to sound fiscal management policies. Our goal is to maintain the property tax rate at its existing level in this budget. The county executive is stressing communication and collaboration by having regular department head meetings, and also in those meetings to confirm and define missions as they go forward with the individual department heads. As you can imagine, we've got a variety of factors working in this budget. We're receiving this from all over the place. In the public safety realm, the law enforcement community has certainly requested additional positions. Also in our EMS group to fully staff some of our crews out there. As a result of a growing demand for service, we've received a continued increase in 911 calls. We've seen continued increase in patterns of drug-related crime and activity, and their ultimate impacts on all the citizens, as well as the impact on our ability to provide education. Looking at continued infrastructure, construction replacement, whether that be road paving or overlay projects or bridge renovation. Try to continue those efforts. We have a series of significant wastewater challenges. Many of you are aware we're intending to undergo an enhanced nutrient removal upgrade at our Seneca Point facility, probably the largest type of improvement in our wastewater realm that the county's ever entertained. We have a multitude of issues there. They come from levels of funding, where funding can be gained from, a number of customers. We're going through a rate study again at this point. There could very well be tough choices in rate actions that would occur as a result of taking a look at that. They're not easy choices to entertain or swallow, but the facts lay there before us. And that's just a piece of the future challenges that we face here at the county. We believe between all of us, we have the ability and the desire to make those tough choices and move this county ahead for fiscal 14 as well as for future years. The intent of this was to be more of a thought-provoking presentation, to tell you a little bit about where we are. Admittedly, from the expense side, we're not very far along. We will be receiving those items very shortly from the revenue side, going through the development process, looking at our largest revenue sources, whether they be property taxes, as I've indicated. We're building the models based on the existing tax rate. Income taxes are our other largest source of income. Cautiously optimistic, but really giving that the once over. Just looks like the state will continue to get their hands in the pie, make it as tough as possible for us to collect what, based on what we're charging. So, not insurmountable tasks, but tasks that we're more than well equipped to handle. And this is intended to, again, to be a thought provoker to truly solicit comments from the public, from the council. Thank you for your time and your indulgence.
Thank you. Do any of the council members have a question of the finance department?
I have a few questions.
Go ahead.
The continuation of the engineering and math building,
None.
I don't think any of the mics.
None of them.
is this being recorded?
Yeah, they should be, do you have one?
Not from out here, they're not working.
Okay.
I agree with it. Interesting.
Could you tell me about the continuation of the engineering and math building? What does that mean, the continuation?
Well, the project was already adopted in last year's capital improvement program, even prior to this year. It was contingent upon receiving some state funding, which we got approval for that. And I believe at this point, when I say continuation of it, they should be bidding that project fairly soon to get the process rolling for the engineering and math facility. I believe they're looking at receiving entertaining bids over the course of the next several months and going through that process.
Are we talking about the location in Northeast or the Basel building?
This is Cecil College.
This is Cecil College of Northeast Bayview.
Okay, good. The 1.5 cost of living, let's see, allocation for salaries, last year was it 0.5?
No, last year was at 1%.
At 1.
As you may recall, we entered into 2-year agreements with our through collective bargaining with the IAFF and the FOP. They were for 2-year deals. The first year was at 1% COLA. The second year was 1.5% COLA.
And your goal is to keep the tax rate at a constant level.
Keep it where it is now.
Yeah, and I'm seeing that there's extra costs proposed for the schools. Is it $3 million?
The request coming from Cecil County Public Schools does appear to be in excess of the current level. That's correct. It's in requested form at this point. It has not been scrubbed by the county executive for inclusion in a budget proposal.
I'll add that the requested budget has not been submitted to the county for their comment. It was just submitted by the superintendent to the school board last night. The school board will vet it and make a decision before it's formally introduced to the county executive. It may or may not be at the projected amount, but I think that Mr. Whiteford has the projected numbers that they're showing now.
And the overall revenue from the slot machines per year, what was that, say, in fiscal year 2012 and anticipated for 2013?
Sure, I'll have to give you some ballpark figures. Again, they are down by 40% from 2012. 2012 was our first full year of activity, and when I refer to the dollars, I'll say that I'll just say that all the dollars coming back to the county, whether they be a Cecil County component or a Town of Perryville component, I'll keep it that way. But my expectation on that is we were probably in the neighborhood of $4.8 to $5 million back in 2012, and we're probably close to 3. With that split 65-35, but I'll be glad to provide that to you.
Councilwoman Brugel, do you have any additional questions?
Let me have just one last look over my notes. And I had thought I was looking over the request sent to the departments that if there's any new positions being requested, it, would have to be justified, but that's just a, if a new position is being considered, they would have to get rid of another position, consolidate.
Well, the real answer is not necessarily, but any request for new positions will be clearly articulated within the confines of the budget, should there be any additions or deletions or otherwise.
Do any other members of the council have any questions at this time? I happen to have a couple. And it may be comparing apples and oranges, but I was at the school budget presentation last night, and enrollment projection that they've listed in their chart, and I'll be happy to give this to you, does not reflect the same number that you have on your slide, so you may want to figure that out and see which one is accurate.
Thank you. I actually received the figure associated with the maintenance of effort from Mr. Capra to confirm that in their calculation. That's based on the September 30, 2012 enrollment.
Okay.
They may be showing enrollment going forward. That's fine.
They may be using a different chart, but what they
I
showed,
confirmed it.
what they showed last night was not a reduction of 229, even though we can all agree that there is a reduction and that the differential in state funding is a little over $1 million less that the state will be providing to the school for their income. Now, I get, my biggest question is this. What do you anticipate the revenue from income taxes to do in this fiscal year that we're working on?
I'm expecting that we'll see a modest increase. It's just a question of what it's going to be a modest increase on.
Could you put a dollar amount to modest?
Talking about,
Is that
I'm looking at about 1.5 to a 2% gain. So what that means is, that means approximately $1 million. The problem we have is anytime that we're going and analyzing our income tax revenues is, you may recall, Councilman Haas, the last distribution that we got for fiscal 12, the state over-distributed is considerable. What did we do with that? We were able to identify that a piece of that went with 12 and a piece of that goes with 13. But as a result of that, we have what we're supposed to have. They didn't distribute dollars to us in the first portion of 13 that would have originally been flowing to us. So now we have to look at the analysis of those pieces and see if they're meaningful compared to any history, whether they're regarding withholding, the penalties, the late filers. And to be fair, it doesn't give you a great comfort level that we're showing tremendous growth. If you look at the withholdings in particular is the best driver of that. We're only showing about a 1% increase on the withholding side. You know, we feel like the late filers is going to be a volatile distribution. We will be looking to that. So at present, really kind of holding my water on that to almost the last possible minute, but I'm looking at maybe 1.5 to 2% gain on a $50 million revenue stream. $2 million is going to get you $1 million.
Last night, Mr. Capra, the Chief Financial Officer of the Public Schools, insinuated that the almost $4 million increase in local support to the schools, and that is made up by the operating budget and the pension increase, and it's not quite four, it's a little less than $4 million. He insinuated that the county has the resources within the county budget to afford the increase without raising taxes. What say you?
Well, knowing full well where we are with our levels of fund balance, without looking any further, one could say yes. So that would not be a misstatement. But as to whether or not we ultimately choose to fund at that level or any other level remains to be seen.
So
the question, wherewithal the county to do it, the answer is yes.
So it's possible.
Certainly.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the council?
Just one last question about the homestead tax credit. Do you know how many people had actually applied for that, and does that have an effect on revenue?
The dollars that I would be budgeting for the real property taxes shows the net of any homestead cap at levels at through, say, approximately November 30. It doesn't show any effects for people that will have applied up through the deadline. We haven't received that information as to what impact that would have, because obviously the real impact based on declining assessments is it doesn't have a particularly dramatic impact on the amount of revenue you receive. We're not expecting a dramatic decline, but it could be a factor. But I think you're talking in the thousands as opposed to the hundreds of thousands of dollars in order of magnitude.
Okay.
Let's put it this way. It falls within our historic levels of utilizing the assessment-based estimates, and that there's typically about a 1% plus or minus or 1% standard deviation in the figures that they provide. So I'm comfortable that it falls within that.
I want to thank you and the finance department and county executive for coming here and giving us a heads up on which direction you're heading. I would encourage the public to come out tomorrow night to listen to basically the same presentation and to give comment to the county executive and her staff in the development of the budget. As you all know, the county council only approves the budget after it's been submitted to the council. We have no discretion to add anything in the budget, but we can delete items from the budget if we feel that it's necessary. But I would also encourage the council to come to the meeting to listen to the public's comments regarding the budget so that we have some direction on where we want to stand with the budget also. So the public input will benefit not only the executive branch but also the council from hearing what you all have to say about what direction you want Cecil County to go in developing that budget. Okay, we'll move on. We're going to go back on our agenda to a presentation regarding Cecil Leadership Program by Lee Doherty. Lee, you can just grab a chair over here and roll it up.
You might want to sit over there. Just pull it. Here.
Swing it around.
Here, I'll help. Is this one open? Put it right in the middle.
Lee Doherty is the Director of Business Training and Corporate Services for Cecil College.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me this morning. Good morning. Thank you for inviting me. As you may know, the Cecil Leadership Institute is a community development project that's co-sponsored by the Office of Economic Development, the Cecil County Chamber of Commerce, and Cecil College. And at the college, I am the project director, and I took that position over from Joyce Bowlesby for many years, and Harlan Drake, who started it many years ago. The program works to earmark emerging leaders and current leaders in the county, to teach them about the county and the opportunities there are for leadership in the volunteer world or in the government world. And it goes through the nonprofits, some of the highlights of the county. We go to Fairhill Nature Center, we go to Fairhill Training Center, Union Hospital, and it shows, we do the history of Cecil County. It shows the good parts of Cecil County, and it shows also the challenges. I've often used one of my classmates in Cecil Leadership about 6 years ago was Bill Manilow, and as you all know, Bill has been a lifelong resident of the county, and when he walked away and said he learned new things about Cecil County, I've always thought there is room for anybody to learn. So I know some of you here have been a part of the program, but any of you who have not, I would highly encourage you to consider joining us this year. The program goes from March through May, and the time commitment seems a lot, but I've never heard one person at the end of the program say their job slipped or they didn't come out ahead by taking part in the program. The application deadline is February 15th, so I encourage you to take part in it, or anybody you know who you could see as somebody you would want to see leading this county.
Anyone has any questions?
Yes, I do. I know that there's some really good information in this Cecil Leadership Program. Is there a way that the public could capture some of this information without having to take the course? Because it is very invaluable to learning about Cecil County and knowing about the place where you're living. I know for me, I was a volunteer for 25 years and learning about Fairhill and all across the county just in my participation. So I wouldn't want to lose any interest in this information for people that can't maybe afford to take the course, or maybe would like to learn more, and it's a way for them to get to know their county better.
Well, there are additional classes that we offer at the college that do the history of Cecil County and look at some things, but I don't know of any other way where you meet with the leaders of these organizations on a one-on-one basis.
It may be something you could consider, but I have to tell you, from my experience, is that the participation in the training and the learning is not the only thing you get. It's also the relationship building of the members of the class.
Yes.
And the relationship building of even the graduation events where you meet others and you spend time with others and you get to know others in your class, and potentially develop relationships where those relationships can help you in the future with whatever direction you head, whether it's nonprofit direction, business direction, government direction, or whatever. There's a good opportunity to meet and develop those relationships that could benefit everyone's future.
Absolutely. It's a cohort group, and you're together for 3 months, and the groups do come together, and people find that they have colleagues that then they call on for many, many years to come.
I just want to add that most of the speakers whom we get, do this free of charge, for us. There are a couple that we have to pay for, but right in the beginning, of the classes, there's a personality test that's done, and this class starts to build, camaraderie. And that just builds throughout the 13 weeks. So, you know, to have people step in from the outside that aren't members of the class, I think would be disruptive, personally.
Oh, no, I don't, that isn't what I was suggesting. There's just a lot of, factual information about the county that, I've heard people say, that they've heard this at the CISO leadership, and, maybe there's a place where we can also.
And the factual parts you could probably pick up different places, but the cohort, the group that you bring together is unique.
The Historical Society has a tremendous amount of information as far as historical facts. I don't know what you were looking for, but.
Are there any other questions? Well, I'd like to thank you for coming in, and I would encourage those commissioners that have not attended the course to participate, and I would also encourage the public to consider participating in this class. I think no matter how much you think you know, you'll learn a whole lot more about Cecil County and be able to use it effectively as a member of the community, whether you're in nonprofit organizations or business, or even thinking about getting more involved in government.
So, President Hodge, can I ask what was your biggest takeaway from this course? Was it the relationships?
Well, I have to tell you, I went in with the attitude that I thought I knew Cecil County pretty well. And when I came out, I decided that I didn't know it as well as I thought I did, that there's a lot more to know. It also gave me the opportunity of doing some things that I would never be able to do otherwise as an individual. The tour of the jail was interesting. I was able to go into a gore plant. I was able to go into a Thiokol plant. I was able to go into Tarumo, where the public would never be able to participate and tour. There are places that it gives you some access and understanding about business and nonprofits. It's just a very broad review, and there are still people that I would have never met if I hadn't gotten involved in that program. So I think it's well worthwhile. It does take a little bit of financial resources, and it does take some time commitment, but it's well worth that investment. Okay, we'll move on to council member items, and Councilwoman Bowlesby, if you'd like to start, if you have anything you'd like to bring to our attention.
The only thing that I want to say is that I attended the Northeast Rotary Club Oyster Feast yesterday. I ate too much and it was great. And it was a changed venue. It was at the Wellwood this year. That's it.
Councilwoman Brumell.
Just wanted to point out, January 31st is the last day for the Easy Pass transponder for it to be free. Those who have the Hayden Bridge only plan, effective February 1st, it will cost you $9 for the transponder box. And it's a one-time fee, so if you don't have to renew the $9 payment each year, you don't have to renew the $9 payment each year, but it's even better if you don't have to pay anything at all. Those who don't have the Easy Pass only plan, the toll is currently $6 per trip, and it's going to increase to $8 in July. And for those who are feeling your blood pressure rising, it could have been worse. Originally, MDTA planned to replace the $10 ABI decal with a $54 Easy Pass, plus $79 for the transponder, but the feedback from outreach citizens allowed the MDTA board to rethink their options. So, ending on a positive note. Last Wednesday, I attended the MACO legislative meeting and observed the process in which bills are selected, reviewed, and commented on by Maryland counties. There is a particular criteria as to what bills they're going to comment on. If there's a bill that you think would be, should be considered, let me know, and I'll bring it up. I have requested to be put on the taxation subcommittee and will be providing comments on proposed bills. I was pleased to hear that MACO welcomes suggestions for bills to comment on from individual counties. I also attended the TMDL Coalition meeting, and the first order of business was to change the name to the Clean Chesapeake Coalition. And because I'm serving on the Rural County Coalition, I think it makes good sense to also serve on this board. It wasn't on the list of appointments that we considered. Is there a consensus to allow me to be the appointment for Cecil County? I know I spoke with this, it was the TMDL Coalition, it wasn't on my list of appointments.
The Clean Chesapeake Coalition would ask for a executive person from each county to represent the county at their meetings. And Councilwoman Brumell has indicated her representation on the Rural Counties Coalition would help her in her effort to represent Cecil County on the Clean Chesapeake Coalition also.
Well, I've also been very active in sending them information, such as the Corsica River study, the Northern Map Total, the professor in testifying. I find it interesting about the dredging, the article that the Cecil Wade just did about the contamination at Pierce Creek, very good article. And now the sludge issue. I find it interesting that it's in for the state and federal government to pollute our waters, but we have to clean it up. So anyway, I've just been very active in this, and I've also personally signed up to testify on the FERC process.
Is there anyone else who would like to serve on this council, or can I have a motion to appoint Councilwoman Brumell to represent Cecil County on the Clean Chesapeake Coalition?
I'll move to appoint Councilwoman Brumell to this commission, but I would also suggest that maybe she look at the other commitments that she has for boards and commissions and give up one or two of them, so that, you know, because you're on quite a few, and I think that it would be appropriate to spread the responsibility throughout the council.
I appreciate that. I've been a very...
I'll hold time out. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Was the motion to appoint her to that?
Yes.
Okay, all right, I'll second that.
Okay, is there any further discussion on the motion?
Well, I appreciate her comment on how many boards I do represent, but I've just been I have always been a very active, hard worker, and I was looking over it again last night, and to be honest, there's not one I would give up at this point. And that's what, you know, I appreciate Ms. Doherty coming in with the Cecil Leadership Institute. This certainly is not at the top of my list of things I'm going to do in my last 2 years serving as council member. I'm working very hard for the county.
Is there any other further discussion on the motion to appoint Councilwoman Brumell to represent Cecil County in the Clean Chesapeake Coalition?
Do I understand that you're not willing to give up anything else to be on this?
Well, Ms. Goldstein, what would you recommend I give up?
Well, I would ask you to choose. I just think that there are 5 council people, and when you look at the list, Commissioner Brumell, your name is on the majority of those commissions. And I just pick one, even. I mean, Councilman McCarthy only, I think, has 1 commitment.
Councilman McCarthy had an opportunity to speak up.
No, he really didn't. I sat beside him, and everybody was jumping forward and doing that. I support you on this. I think you're the right person for this, but I think that you also need to give up something in order for me to vote for you to do this.
Councilwoman Bowlesby, Was your motion contingent upon her giving?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Did you second that
I'm
motion?
not seconding that, although if you wanna give it.
Okay,
I'll-
all right, wait, there was a motion and a second, but I'm gonna call the vote, and, all those in favor, let me finish. The motion was to appoint Councilwoman
Brumel.
Brumel to the Clean Chesapeake Coalition, but only if she gave up another, position on another committee or, board. And, so we're gonna have a vote on that motion, and all those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Aye. So that it's 3-1. May I have another motion, please?
Motion to
The
appoint.
motion fails, so,
Right. Motion to appoint Councilwoman Burrell to the, what's it, Clean Chesapeake Coalition?
That's right.
Okay.
I'll second.
okay, there's been a motion, a second, is there any discussion on that motion? All those in favor of appointing Councilwoman Brumel to the Clean Chesapeake Council to represent Cecil County, say aye. Aye. And those opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, the motion carries 3-1. Councilwoman Brumel, did you have any other items?
Yes, thank you. We need a volunteer from Cecil County to be on the technical committee, for the Clean Chesapeake Coalition. Each county that belongs to this coalition is expected to, volunteer, one of these, members. The other counties had managerial staff from either planning and zoning or DPW. If it's okay with the board, I will ask Eric Sundstrom, Director Sundstrom, or Director Flanagan for a volunteer in their department.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we already got an inquiry on that, and our recommendation, in speaking to both Director Flanagan and Sundstrom, is that, Tony DiGiacomo serve in that capacity,
Oh,
and he's agreed.
wonderful. Okay, that's good. There were additional items on the agenda, which I don't think would be proper to disclose on the recording, but I can share with the board individually. Last Friday, I was back in Annapolis for the Rural County Coalition Coordination Meeting with attorney Fred Kelly Grant. There was a consensus from those attending the meeting that this process had merit and that we should explore it further. I had discussed this prior with President Hodge about the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee. I would encourage the board to get them involved in this budget process. And that they can, I'm not sure what the process is for them to look into the, to provide their input, but I would suggest them getting on board as soon as possible.
Well, I think that if we would like to put together an advisory committee to help us address the budget, then we would need to pass a resolution to establish that committee. And it would be a new committee. It would be a new advisory board, and we would appoint new members, and which could be the same as the old members if we choose to do that.
I'm not sure we can do that, Robert, or President Hodge. I have to look at establishment of boards and commissions in the charter.
I think that if we want to establish a temporary advisory committee, that there's nothing wrong.
As long as it's temporary and
Right.
only advisory, it should.
And that's what it is. It's
Okay.
temporary and it's advisory.
Okay.
I see no problem with that at all. And I would make it temporary to address the one budget, cycle.
Okay.
Well, because time is of the essence, I would make a motion that we, draft a resolution to set up this temporary subcommittee.
Is there a second to the motion to establish a budget advisory committee on a temporary basis?
will this, can I just ask a question? Will this committee be advising us as to items we should be deleting? Because that's the only prerogative we have.
I think because of the new process, that could be to be determined. They could be, also testifying during the public comment time, if prior to the county executive adopting the final budget.
So you want them to lobby for us? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I don't think that's the correct term.
I guess I need more explanation from you, Councilman Bruno. I know that this is much different than the process that you've previously gone through. But a budget's going to be presented to us. We are going to look at it line item by line item. And if we like it, we leave it in. If we don't like it, we'll take it out. And that's the end of it. I mean,
That's the way it stands now.
it's not gonna
But
change.
I find that the more information we have, and the more information the public has, the better the process. And I guess that's what I'm promoting.
Well, and I think that that's what the public hearings of the county executive is doing. I mean, this should be coming from the county executive side, not the council side, I think.
It sounds like we need more discussion on this. Might I suggest we put it on as an item next week for our work session agenda? Take it up there.
I'm okay with that. Is that all right, Councilwoman Brunel?
Yes, that's fine.
Can you put that on the agenda for next week? Do you have any other items, Councilwoman Brunel?
No, that's it for now.
I'd like to just bring to the attention of the public, oh, I'm sorry, I apologize.
I'll be brief. I just had a constituent matter last week about a sinkhole up at Glen Farms, and I don't think Director Flanagan is here, but I did want to commend the roads department for their prompt attention to that, and they got out there very quickly and fixed it, and I had a happy constituent, so that's always a good thing.
Thank you, sorry. I just want to bring to the attention of the public that there is an effort in Annapolis during the General Assembly to repeal the Sustainable Growth and Agricultural Preservation Act, also known as SB 236. There's been House Bill 106 introduced by Delegate McDermott, and there's a Senate Bill 391 introduced by Senator Pipkin to an attempt to repeal that bill that we feel has negatively impacted property rights in Cecil County, and I believe most counties believe that it usurps our planning abilities, and there's a lot of people who like to see that bill repealed. Whether it has a chance to get anywhere in Annapolis, I don't know, but there is an effort ongoing. One more thing I wanted to bring up, we had a list of boards and committee appointments that we made last week. We missed the weed control. There's actually a weed control advisory board. I've been sitting on this board. It only meets generally once a year. Is there anyone that'd like to sit on the weed advisory board?
I motion that we appoint Alan McCarthy to that.
You stole my phone.
I would not make a commitment for Commissioner, or Councilman McCarthy since he's not here. Can we wait for that?
Yes, we can. We need to revisit the Upper Shore Regional Council voting members. We designated 3 council members, but I understand that there's going to possibly be a bylaw change that would say that the county executive would have 1 vote, and we need 2 council members rather than 3. So we need to drop one of the 3 council members that we appointed last week. Those were Diana Brummel, Michael Dunn, and Alan McCarthy.
Well, first there's, no, I'm second vice chair currently, and I have been very active, would like to continue to participate. Economic development, as you know, Robert, has been something I've been very active in. And Upper Shore Regional has a lot of potential. Very excited about the strategic plan that was put together, and it will enhance what we're trying to do here in Cecil County.
Okay.
Well, I guess I'll talk it over with Alan and
Okay.
really wants to.
That would be great. That would be great. I would encourage you to talk it over with Alan and figure out who would like to serve. Did that cover those? All right, that's the end of our agenda, and I believe we're going to go into closed session. Can I have a motion to go into closed session?
Second.
Yeah, Vicki, would you please read the parameters on why we're going into closed session?
Council will go into closed session pursuant to the Maryland Annotated Code, State Government 10-508A1, to discuss a personnel matter relating to the appointment of an individual to the council attorney position and council manager position, and 8, to discuss pending litigation. State Government and State Government 10-502, administrative function for budgetary preparation administration for the county council office budget.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to have a 5-minute recess.